Waffles. Waffles became Teen Titans Go's most universally despised episode as Beast Boy and Cyborg said nothing but waffles for the entire 12-minute runtime, with the word spoken 295 times total, earning a devastating 4 rating on IMDb and being called ear-grating and unbearable by viewers. By February 2014, Teen Titans Go had already established itself as a polarizing show that divided fans between those who enjoyed its silly humor and those who missed the original Teen Titans' more serious tone. The series had found success with younger audiences through its focus on random comedy, musical numbers, and exaggerated character personalities that bore little resemblance to their original counterparts. Teen Titans Go episodes typically followed a simple formula: take a mundane situation or silly concept and stretch it into an 11 to 12-minute episode with lots of visual gags, songs, and repetitive humor. Previous episodes had featured the Titans dealing with everyday problems like chores, food, or minor disagreements that would spiral into absurd adventures. The show's humor relied heavily on repetition, catchphrases, and characters acting in deliberately annoying ways. Beast Boy and Cyborg had been established as the most childish members of this version of the Teen Titans, often engaging in stupid games and competitions that irritated their teammates. Their friendship was built around shared interests in food, video games, and various forms of immature behavior that would frustrate Robin, Starfire, and Raven. The show had already tested viewers' patience with episodes that pushed single jokes to their breaking point, but Waffles would prove to be the ultimate test of how far the series could go before even its most dedicated fans reached their limit. The episode represented everything critics found wrong with Teen Titans Go's approach to comedy, taking one simple concept and beating it into the ground through sheer repetition. The episode opens with Robin peacefully reading a newspaper in the kitchen when Beast Boy and Cyborg enter, immediately launching into their new game. They greet each other and respond to questions with only one word: waffles. When Robin asks what they're doing, Cyborg simply nods and says, "Waffles," again, while Beast Boy responds with the same word. Starfire enters the scene and tries to understand what's happening, asking, "Waffles?" in confusion. Beast Boy and Cyborg enthusiastically respond with more waffles, treating this as confirmation that their game is working. When Robin demands to know what's going on, Raven floats through and explains that they're obviously playing some idiotic game to see who can go the longest, saying only waffles. Starfire becomes excited and wants to join the game, shouting "Waffles" with enthusiasm. However, Beast Boy and Cyborg immediately reject her participation, suggesting she's saying it wrong. This confuses Starfire, who asks how one can say waffles incorrectly, but the boys just shake their heads disapprovingly. Robin tries to be the voice of reason, pointing out that saying waffles over and over isn't funny, it's just annoying. He begs them to stop. Instead of listening, Cyborg responds by screaming "W-A-A-A-F, F-F, F-F, L-W-L-E-S-S-S-S" directly in Robin's face, spitting on him in the process. This establishes that Beast Boy and Cyborg have no intention of stopping their game regardless of how much it bothers their friends. The tension builds as the other Titans become increasingly frustrated with the relentless repetition, setting up what viewers expected would be a typical Teen Titans Go resolution, where the annoying behavior would eventually lead to some lesson or consequence. The episode's main plot kicks in when Brother Blood, the villain and headmaster of HIVE Academy, captures all 5 Titans as part of a scheme to obtain their voice recognition codes. He separates them into 2 groups, Robin, Starfire, and Raven in one cage, and Beast Boy and Cyborg, strapped to torture tables operated by his robot assistant, Painbot. Brother Blood easily obtains the codes from Robin, Starfire, and Raven by simply threatening them with torture, All three immediately give up their passwords rather than face Painbot's devices. This quick surrender sets up the expectation that Beast Boy and Cyborg will similarly break under pressure and abandon their silly game when faced with real danger. However, when Brother Blood demands their codes, Beast Boy and Cyborg continue saying only Waffles. They refuse to break character even when faced with actual torture devices. Brother Blood becomes increasingly frustrated, repeatedly demanding their real codes, but the two heroes maintain their commitment to their stupid game no matter what happens to them. Painbot begins torturing them with various devices, circular saws, flamethrowers, drills, and hammers, while Beast Boy and Cyborg continue screaming Waffles in response to each painful assault. The torture sequences are shown through shadow discretion shots, but the audio makes clear that they're experiencing genuine pain while refusing to say anything other than their chosen word. The repetition becomes mind-numbing as the episode stretches this single joke across its entire runtime. Beast Boy and Cyborg say Waffles in response to every question, threat, and torture device. They turn it into a song, scream it while being burned, whisper it weakly when barely conscious, and use it as their only form of communication throughout the entire ordeal. Brother Blood's frustration mirrors that of the viewers, as he repeatedly shouts for them to stop saying Waffles because it's getting very irritating and it's not funny at all. His complaints serve as a voice for everyone watching who has grown tired of the relentless repetition, but the episode continues anyway. The climax comes when Robin, Starfire, and Raven realize that the only way to defeat Brother Blood is to join in the game themselves. They begin chanting Waffles along with Beast Boy and Cyborg, creating a cacophony of the word that drives Brother Blood to flee in annoyance, abandoning his evil plan entirely. The fan reaction to Waffles was overwhelmingly negative and immediate. The episode earned a brutal 4 out of 10 rating on IMDb, making it one of the lowest rated episodes in the entire series. Viewers described it as ear-grating, unbearable, and mind-numbing, with many saying they couldn't finish watching it. Critics and fans alike pointed out that the episode perfectly encapsulated everything wrong with Teen Titans Go's approach to comedy. One reviewer wrote, "This episode summarizes everything wrong with Teen Titans Go, repeatedly saying Waffles for an entire episode is not funny. It gets irritating and ear-grating." Another described it as the most stupid thing I've ever seen, but admitted they loved it for its sheer absurdity. The episode became a lightning rod for criticism about the show's writing quality and its treatment of beloved characters. Many fans felt that Beast Boy and Cyborg's behavior in the episode made them complete jerks who showed no consideration for their teammates' feelings. The fact that they knew their game was annoying but continued anyway struck many viewers as cruel rather than funny. Even some Teen Titans Go defenders struggled with this episode. Fans who normally enjoyed the show's silly humor found Waffles too repetitive and one-note to be entertaining. The consensus was that while the initial concept might have been amusing for a few minutes, stretching it across an entire episode was a serious miscalculation. The episode's musical numbers, which typically served as highlights in other Teen Titans Go episodes, were particularly criticized for consisting almost entirely of the word Waffles repeated to simple melodies. Viewers described the songs as lazy and repetitive, lacking the clever wordplay or catchy hooks that made other episodes' music memorable. Waffles became the go-to example for critics who wanted to demonstrate Teen Titans Go's worst tendencies. The episode was frequently cited in discussions about the show's quality problems and its departure from the original Teen Titans storytelling approach. It became shorthand for everything fans disliked about the reboot's comedy style. The episode's failure influenced how other animated shows approached repetitive humor. It served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of stretching a single joke too thin, showing that even shows aimed at younger audiences could lose their viewers' attention if they pushed concepts beyond their natural breaking point. For Teen Titans Go itself, Waffles marked a low point that the series would struggle to overcome in the eyes of many critics. While the show continued for many more seasons and found success with its target demographic, this episode remained a permanent black mark on its reputation that older viewers and animation critics would never forget. The episode also highlighted the generational divide in Teen Titans Go's audience. Some younger viewers genuinely enjoyed the repetitive humor and found the episode's absurdity entertaining, while older fans and critics found it insufferable. This split demonstrated that the show was succeeding with its intended demographic even as it alienated longtime franchise fans. Waffles became a meme within the Teen Titans Go fandom, but not in a positive way. Fans would reference the episode as an example of the show at its worst, and saying Waffles repeatedly became a shorthand criticism for lazy writing. The episode's title alone could trigger negative reactions from viewers who remembered their frustrating experience watching it. The episode's approach to torture sequences also raised eyebrows among parents and critics who felt that showing heroes being tortured, even in a comedic context, was inappropriate for the show's young target audience. While the torture was shown through shadows and played for laughs, some felt it sent the wrong message about persistence in the face of genuine danger. Despite its negative reception, Waffles proved that Teen Titans Go was willing to commit fully to its creative vision, even when that vision annoyed large portions of its audience. The episode showed that the series prioritized its own bizarre sense of humor over pleasing critics or longtime fans. For better or worse, the episode's legacy extends beyond Teen Titans. Go to broader discussions about children's television and what constitutes appropriate humor for young audiences. It became a case study in how shows could alienate viewers by prioritizing repetition over creativity, and how even the most patient fans had their limits when it came to tolerating annoying behavior from beloved characters. Waffles ultimately stands as Teen Titans Go's most notorious episode, not because it was offensive or inappropriate, but because it represented the absolute extreme of the show's comedic philosophy. It proved that there was indeed such a thing as too much of a good thing, and that even shows built on silly humor needed to know when to stop beating a dead horse. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Adventure Time, Slow Love. The episode focuses on Finn and Jake helping a giant creature named Snorlock find a girlfriend, but the story becomes weighed down by excessive gross-out humor and a thin plot that many viewers and critics found disappointing. This episode was written and storyboarded by Cole Sanchez and Benton Connor. Benton Connor co-storyboarded this episode, and if you didn't already know, Connor was a storyboard artist on regular show for all 8 seasons. Connor actually only storyboarded 2 episodes of AT, including this one, and the tone in this one is actually more reminiscent to that of regular show. The episode follows Adventure Time's common early formula of introducing a one-off character who needs help from Finn and Jake. One of Adventure Time's trademarks is introducing a character and making that entire episode their day in the limelight. To name a few are Mimo, Banana Man, Rattleballs, Root Beer Guy, James, Kent, and so on. However, unlike many successful episodes of this type, Slow Love struggles with its central character and relies heavily on uncomfortable humor. The episode's main character, Snorlock, was voiced by Biz Markie, a famous beatboxer and rapper. Snorlock's voice actor was well known for his beatboxing in real life and was sometimes referred to as the human beatbox. This casting choice would become important to the episode's climax, but many viewers felt it was not enough to save the overall story. The episode begins in the tree fort with a seemingly normal day. Finn is reading the OO review, and Jake is trying to play a game on BMO, who is playing up-tempo electronic music and dancing. Jake complains that BMO is playing the music too loud and hits BMO with a rolled-up newspaper, telling him to go sit in the corner and think about your life. This peaceful moment is suddenly interrupted when disaster strikes their home. Suddenly, a giant snail bursts through the wall, roars, and rams Finn and Jake against the far wall. The creature immediately begins what becomes the episode's most criticized element, the gross-out humor. Snorlock starts crying and squirting fluids on Finn and Jake, who are both coughing and gagging, with Finn saying, "Oh, sick." Jake's first instinct is to fight back using what he knows about snails. Jake stretches his arm, grabs a salt shaker, and threatens the creature, saying, "Don't make me use this, man." This threat reveals that the creature is intelligent and aware of Finn and Jake's reputation as heroes. The creature introduces himself and explains his situation, though not without more unpleasant details. Snorlock explains, "It's not mad juice, it's sad juice. My name's Snorlock, and I'm Sa-A-D," while sobbing. When Finn tells him to stop squirting slime and explain what's wrong, Snorlock reveals, "I need a girlfriend. I have no one to love." The heroes face a moral dilemma that sets up the episode's central conflict. In a hero huddle, Jake says, "I think our house is all jacked up." But Finn responds, "Yeah, but he's just an innocent goober looking for love." Jake agrees, "Yeah, okay, let's help him, but he's got to lay off the house." However, Snorlock immediately makes their situation worse. When Finn agrees to help as long as you, Snorlock bursts through the wall again and yells, "Yay," causing more damage. Snorlock then picks up their entire treehouse and carries it on his back like a shell, saying he'll put it back right after I get a girlfriend. The main portion of the episode involves Finn and Jake's attempts to teach Snorlock how to talk to women, with mixed and often uncomfortable results. Finn begins with basic advice. "Okay, Snorlock, if you want a lady, you have to be yourself." When Snorlock asks, "How do I be myself?" Jake advises, "Just do whatever you want, man, as long as it comes from the inside." Their first attempt at finding Snorlock a date appears promising initially. Finn spots a female snail through his telescope and tells Snorlock to go talk to her. The lady snail sees Snorlock, sucks in her gut, and says, "Hello." She even shows interest, saying, "You seem like a reasonable male. We should go to a movie sometime." I like old movies. That she's just straightforward and friendly, and it's Snorlock who clearly has the problem. Here goes a long way to blunting what's annoying about these sorts of "will help you talk to girls" type stories, taking it right to the most absurd length possible right away. However, Snorlock completely fails at this first interaction. As the conversation continues, Snorlock gets nervous and starts saying, when the lady snail asks, "Are you okay?" Snorlock has a complete breakdown, screaming, girlfriend, girlfriend," repeatedly while shaking violently. This causes major damage to the tree fort and scares away the potential date. Jake attempts to help by role-playing dating scenarios, which leads to some of the episode's most uncomfortable moments. Jake suggests, "Finn, you be the guy snail, and I'll be the chick snail," and transforms to look like a female snail. Finn responds, gross, Jake," but agrees to help. The role-playing becomes increasingly awkward. When Finn says, "What's up, lady snail?" Jake responds in a high-pitched voice, "Well, I'm just sitting here thinking about mating with snails." This causes Finn to say, "No, I can't do this, man. I am out," while Snorlock shows interest by saying, "I'll mate with you." Jake then switches roles and demonstrates his dating technique. Jake shifts into a guy snail, flexes his pecs, and says, "Hey, baby, what's up?" He then sniffs Finn's hand and says, "Girl, you smell good. Did you take a bath in rainbows and cupcakes?" While this line becomes memorable, the scene continues to make Finn increasingly uncomfortable. Snorlock tries to copy Jake's approach with disastrous results. Approaching another lady snail, Snorlock says, "Girl, you smell good." When she asks, "You can smell me?" he nervously looks to Finn and Jake for approval, then asks, "May I smell you more?" The lady snail reluctantly agrees, and Snorlock sniffs her and says, "Cupcakes." She responds, I have to go." When Snorlock asks, "Did you take a bath?" she tells him, "Don't ever talk to me again." The first time Snorlock tries to talk to a lady snail, he has a total freak-out. Snorlock misuses Jake's suggested pickup line about saying a lady smells nice and ends up doing perverted sniffing to a female snail, scaring her away. After multiple failures, Jake suggests trying a different approach. Jake asks, "You have any cool talents that ladies might like?" When Snorlock says no, Jake suggests teaching him sword work, saying, "The princesses always love this one." Finn demonstrates sword moves, and Jake then asks, "Maybe you're musical. Can you do this?" and begins beatboxing. This finally leads to Snorlock's moment of success. Snorlock combines both suggestions. Snorlock grunts, grows arms, grabs the swords, then begins beatboxing and twirling swords. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Female snails start saying, "My word, Eleanor, what is that alluring sound?" and "I have no idea." A herd rushes over in the trio's direction, with snail ladies saying, "Oh my, what is that? What is that wonderful sound? Do I see swords?" A horde of lady snails congregates as soon as Snorlock starts beatboxing. What should have been Snorlock's triumph quickly becomes a new problem for everyone involved. The snail ladies crowd around Snorlock and begin grinding on him while he continues beatboxing. This causes the tree fort, which is still on Snorlock's back, to shake violently with objects falling and breaking inside. Finn yells, "Snorlock, these ladies are ruining our treehouse. Stop." But Snorlock continues beatboxing as the snail ladies kiss him. The continuous grinding wrecks the house even more. Finn and Jake find themselves trapped in an increasingly dangerous situation. Finn tries to use his sword to pull the house off Snorlock, but Jake says, "It's no use, man. It's stuck with snail slime." Both Finn and Jake get shoved back and forth between the snail ladies and land hard on the ground. Jake remembers their earlier threat and decides to take drastic action. Jake flashes back to the salt shaker and Snorlock yelling, "Salt." He tells Finn, "Dude, I'm going in." Despite Finn warning, Jake, "No, you'll get slimed or grinded on." Jake runs and jumps into the house window, grabs the salt shaker, and dives back outside. The salt proves to be an effective but painful solution. Jake warns, "Snorlock, I'm gonna give you till the count of 3, mister." When Snorlock continues, Jake taps out a single grain of salt onto his palm and blows it in Snorlock's direction. The beatboxing stops as the grain lands and leaves a huge burn mark. Snorlock screams, Ow, ow," and bucks the house off his back. The salt incident reveals the truth about Snorlock's identity and solves his romantic problems. When the salt hits Snorlock, one snail lady says, "Oh my gosh, he's naked," and the snail ladies laugh. Snorlock responds confused, "What? I'm naked? But I've never had a shell." Jake realizes, "Snorlock, you never had a shell? That means you're not naked. You're a slug." This revelation explains Snorlock's dating difficulties. Finn tells him, "Yeah, man, that's why you have trouble with snail chicks. You need slug chicks. In real life, slugs and snails are hermaphrodites, rather than having separate male and female sexes. However, the show creates its own biology for the story. The solution comes from an unexpected source. A slug lady reveals, "Actually, I'm not really a snail. I'm a slug. My shell's made of peppermint." Snorlock laughs happily, and the scene shows Snorlock and the slug lady kissing. The episode ends with the aftermath of all the chaos. Finn says, "That's gross," while Jake complains, "I don't know why they have to make out so close to our house." Finn suggests, "I don't know. Come on, let's finish rebuilding it. I got some earplugs you can borrow." The episode begins and ends with Bimo annoying Jake by playing music too loudly. Bimo is watching the two slugs and cheering, "Go, go, go, go," when Finn tells BMO to help rebuild and Jake says, "Yeah, you live here too," BMO just increases the volume. The episode ends with BMO getting sprayed by slime. Critical reception and problems. Slow Love received largely negative reviews from both critics and fans, with many considering it one of Adventure Time's weakest episodes. Adventure Time Season 4's Slow Love centers on a lovelorn snail named Snorlock who crashes with Finn and Jake while searching for romance. Unfortunately, the episode leans too hard into gross-out humor, with visuals and gags that feel more off-putting than funny. While Adventure Time often embraces weirdness, Slow Love doesn't balance its absurdity with any meaningful emotional core. It's not just the humor that sinks Slow Love to being one of the worst Adventure Time episodes. It's the lack of character development and stakes. Many reviewers criticized Snorlock as an unsympathetic character. Snorlock the Slug falls more into the latter category. It's not necessarily that he's an awful character, but he's certainly a character that doesn't warrant having an entire episode dedicated to him. Snorlock is unlikable. He's a bit selfish in his actions, and it's hard to sympathize with him when he isn't concerned with the well-being of our main protagonists at all. The issue here is that Snorlock is neither lovable, like Tree Trunks, nor fun to hate, like the witch from The Witch's Garden. He's just gross, and his brainless horniness comes off as unpleasant rather than cute. The episode's pacing and plot structure also received criticism. This episode is really bland, more bland than I ever thought an Adventure Time episode could be. It's also slower than I would have expected from this show. It's a story that sounds okay from a conceptual stage, but really, there's not a ton to expand on. It's just a drawn-out 11 minutes of one idea that doesn't particularly work to the strength of its characters. The gross-out humor was particularly unpopular with viewers. This episode sucks. Gross jokes and the smell was weird the whole time. Hated how BMO got slimed in the end. 0 divided by 10 wouldn't watch again. The gross-out humor, on the other hand, is just plain gross, and I don't ever want to have to think about the phrase sad juice ever again. Some fans found the episode's central premise problematic. I also kinda hate this episode, 'cause it kinda show how our current generation take for granted in entering relationships, like having boyfriend divided by girlfriend in such a hurry. However, the episode did have some defenders who appreciated certain elements, which brings me to the other part of this episode that elevates the whole proceedings. It's just extremely funny. In the long run, sure, Adventure Time wouldn't have become as great as it was if it hadn't eventually risen above vaguely cliched plots. But ultimately, whether you're building a lore-dense story or tossing off a vaguely hacky plot as an excuse to get a musical guest the chance to show off, if it's not funny and entertaining, then it doesn't matter. Finn and Jake role-playing on how to date a snail is, to me, a spectacular piece of comedy writing. Jake is so clearly just having fun fucking with Finn. I laugh every time at "I'm just sitting here thinking about mating with snails." One thing that stands out in this episode is John DiMaggio's voice work. He's really grown into Jake at this point and does a superb job of giving life to his character, as well as using his range of voices to add flair and humor. Production details and trivia. The episode contains several interesting production details and references. The Land of Ooh has a newspaper titled The Ooh Review seen when Finn is reading it at the beginning of the episode. There is a PHIL face on the front page of that edition. The title card music is the same music that accompanies Snorlock's beatboxing. The song that BMO plays is the same tune from the game Finn and Jake's Epic Quest. There were some animation continuity errors noted by fans. When Jake tells BMO to go to timeout, he points to the right, but BMO heads left. In the next shot, however, BMO is by the right wall and is even shown since BMO is seen falling from the right when he is pushed away by Snorlock. John DiMaggio is listed as the voice for Snorlock, when it's really Biz Markie who lent his voice to Snorlock. This was a casting error in the credits. The episode includes subtle foreshadowing for its main twist. Close examination of the scene where Snorlock busts into Finn and Jake's house makes it obvious he doesn't have a shell, foreshadowing the reveal that he's actually a giant slug. The episode's place in Adventure Time history. Slow Love represents an early misstep in Adventure Time's second season, showing some of the growing pains the series experienced while finding its voice. The entirety of Slow Love encompasses Finn and Jake's sympathy for this really obnoxiously unsympathetic character that never really warrants any kind of compassion to begin with. It's one that easily evades my memory. It isn't particularly funny, nor is it visually interesting, aside from some cool misty shots of the grasslands. Slow Love may be slightly better than the worst Season 1 had to offer, but it's coming in way under par for Season 2. The episode demonstrates how even a show as creative and beloved as Adventure Time could stumble when relying too heavily on gross-out humor without providing the emotional depth that made the series special. The episode serves as an example of what doesn't work in Adventure Time's formula. While the show succeeded with many one-off characters who brought humor, heart, or interesting concepts to their episodes, Snorlock failed to connect with audiences. Without any real feelings at stake, this is just a bunch of encounters with lady snails strung together. Despite its problems, Slow Love remains part of Adventure Time's complete story and represents the experimental nature of the show's early seasons. While it may not be remembered fondly by most fans, it shows the creative team's willingness to try different approaches, even when they didn't always succeed. The episode's poor reception may have influenced the show's later direction, as Adventure Time would go on to create much more sophisticated and emotionally resonant stories in subsequent seasons. Slow Love stands as a reminder that even the most beloved shows have episodes that miss the mark, and that learning from these failures is part of the creative process. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown.